Ever think about, the disciples, the ones who were actually with Jesus?
Yeah,
It's kind of wild how they all heard the same teaching, saw the same miracles, but ended up so different, right?
right.
Like John and Judas,
Huh.
both picked by Jesus, both saw his power, but one is all about love and the other, well, betrayal.
Yeah, how does that even happen?
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today.
Cool.
This excerpt from Ellen White's My Life Today, the September 11th entry,
Okay.
it uses John and Judas, but it's really talking about all Christians.
Gotcha. So even though it's from the Bible, it's for us today.
Totally.
Yeah.
So Christ's school of discipleship, that sounds intense. What's that all about?
It was intense. It was like total immersion in how Jesus lived and taught,
Yes.
not just sermons, but doing it like all the time.
Whoa, 2047 spiritual boot camp.
Kind of. It took serious commitment, which is what John was all about.
Yeah, he wasn't just listening. He was trying to, become more like Christ.
Exactly. Meekness, humility,
Yeah.
love, all those things.
Really taking it to heart, not just outward stuff.
Exactly. True change on the inside.
So we have John, the star student, but then there's Judas. Same opportunities, but totally different path. What happened there?
Well, the text says, even with all that, Judas held on to his own selfish stuff. Didn't really want to surrender to God.
It even mentions his dishonesty. Like, was he even really a disciple or just faking it?
That's the big point. You can be religious, but is your heart changing? Being near Jesus isn't enough. It's got to go deeper.
So Judas is like the warning sign. We can't just coast on our faith. We got to let God work in us.
Exactly. And that's where Ellen White connects it to us today. She's saying there are John types and Judas types in every generation.
Whoa, that's like she's calling us out, asking, which one are you?
It makes you think, are we really letting God change us or just doing the motions?
That's deep. Are we on that sanctification path, trying to be more like Christ, or just playing the part?
And it's a tough path. There's always stuff trying to pull us away.
It's like at every turn, do we choose the easy way or the God way?
Right? Every day, every choice.
Makes a difference.
Big time. So John and Judas walking with Jesus, but making such different choices.
Yeah, it's like a reminder that being a disciple isn't passive. You got to choose to follow, let his teachings really change you. Not just be there, but be transformed.
And it's not a one-time thing, right? It's a process, facing temptation, making tough choices, and needing God's grace to overcome our weaknesses.
Like we're always at a fork in the road, John's path growing, surrendering. Or do we kind of feel ourselves like Judas did?
And the thing is, that choice, it comes up all the time, not just once.
Every single day.
Every thought, every action, it's either getting closer to Christ or drifting away.
It's like that battle inside us, our old self and our new self. What we want versus what God's grace is trying to do.
Exactly. And the more we choose God's way, let his grace work, the easier it gets to resist those temptations. You start acting more like him naturally.
I think that's where our Seventh-day Adventist view of present truth fits in. It's not just holding on to what we've always believed, but always digging deeper into God's word, letting it guide us, Like John, he kept learning alongside Jesus, so we got to be open to growing too.
Oh, that's so good. It's that journey of spiritual growth. We're not perfect overnight. It's becoming more Christ-like every day by his grace.
Not being stuck, but always getting closer to God, letting that relationship change us from the inside.
And the amazing thing is, God knows we're not perfect. We mess up. But he's always there to help us back up, forgive us, and get back on track.
It's such a relief knowing God is patient with us, understands our weaknesses, meets us where we're at, not beating ourselves up, but knowing we need his grace, his power to change us.
Absolutely. And the more we let go, surrender to his will, the more we feel that joy, that peace that comes from living the way he wants us to.
This deep dive into John and Judas, it's like a wake-up call for all of us. We have a choice. Do we just accept things as they are, or do we actually want that transformation like John did?
And we're making that choice every day. Even the little things matter, big life stuff, or just daily choices. Are we just going through the motions or letting God mold us to be like his son?
It comes down to our hearts, right? Do we really want to follow Jesus, or are we more worried about what people think?
That's the tough question, and we got to be honest with ourselves. Which path are we on? John's path, changing, surrendering, or the stuff that messed up Judas?
It reminds us being Christian isn't just outward stuff, it's that true change of heart. and only God can do that.
And it's not like you reach the finish line. It's a whole life of becoming more like Christ.
It's not about being perfect right away, but taking those little steps every day, letting His grace work in us.
And we're not alone. We've got our church family, the Holy Spirit guiding us, and knowing God is with us every step of the way.
This makes me think about how important the Sabbath is for us Seventh-day Adventists. It's that time to stop, refocus on God, let His grace refresh us.
It is a gift, the Sabbath. That time to be with God, remember His love and power, and get ready for the week ahead.
And it reminds us that changing isn't just for us. It helps us be better witnesses for Christ, showing His love to others.
Exactly. The more God works in us, the more we can share that love and grace with everyone around us.
So this deep dive, John and Judas, it shows us being Christian is more than just believing the right things. Our faith has got to change us, make us more like Christ in everything we do.
And it's not just a nice thought, it's really important. It's how we experience God's love and grace fully and how we can share it with the world.
Okay, so we've seen these two paths, John and Judas, same experience with Jesus, but totally different outcomes.
Right.
So for us, how do we make sure we're on the right track, that we're really changing like John did? What can we do?
That's the question, isn't it? I think it starts with, really having a relationship with God, not just knowing about Him.
Not just the rules and stuff.
Exactly. It's got to be personal. Spending time with Him, in His Word, praying.
So God can change us from the inside out.
Yeah, molding our character, our desires, making us more like Him.
And we have the Sabbath, right? That time set aside to just focus on God.
It's such a gift, the Sabbath. Resting in His presence, getting filled up with His grace, ready for the week.
A time to really dig into the Bible, be with other Christians.
And that community part is huge. We need each other on this journey.
I can do it alone.
We need people to challenge us, encourage us, keep us accountable, That's why being part of a church is so important. Finding those real connections with people who get it.
It's like a support system, helping each other grow and learn and become more mature in our faith.
Absolutely. And in that community, we find mentors, people who can give us advice, or even just good friends who will tell us the truth, even when it's hard to hear.
Being humble enough to listen to them, realize we don't know everything. It's about always learning, letting God work on us, even when it's uncomfortable.
So true. Sometimes growing means letting go of old habits, trying new things, changing how we think. It's surrendering to God, trusting Him even when it doesn't make sense to us.
This has been so helpful. From John and Judas, all the way to what we can actually do in our lives.
And it all boils down to this. Are we willing to let go and let God take over? Our own wants, our own way. Let Him shape us into who He wants us to be.
That's the choice we're making every day, big or small. Letting God's will be our will, His grace working in us.
And when we do that, when we really try to be like Christ, that's what true discipleship is. Not just saying the words, but living it out.
So powerful. As we wrap up, let's remember John and Judas and choose that path of transformation, actively growing in our faith.
And never forget, wherever we are on that path, God's grace is there. He's always ready to forgive, to heal, to help us be more like His Son.
So this week, think about your own school of discipleship. Who are you learning from? What lessons are you learning? And how are you putting those lessons into practice day by day?
It's not about being perfect right now, but taking those steps toward Christ, letting His grace work in you, and then letting it shine through you to the world.